Welcome. Thanks so much for being here today. My name is Shelly Sousa. I'm joined by Allison Park, and we are here to talk about architecting your multi-cloud Salesforce journey. Before we get started, I'm sure you all have seen this slide. Please make sure you are basing your purchasing decisions on currently available products and services. So, before we jump in, we want to say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for being here, and we hope you learn a lot from this session. So, to jump in, I'm Shelly Sousa. I'm a technical architect here at Salesforce. I just joined Salesforce in the last year, but I've been in the ecosystem for about a decade, been in technology for about 25 years. As a technical architect, my job is to help our customers understand the best ways to architect their solutions, especially before they make big purchases. How do we connect Data 360? How do we connect Agentforce? How do we make it all work together with our existing systems? And how do we move forward? I'm going to hand over to Allison to introduce herself.
I'm Allison Park. I'm a principal enterprise architect here at Salesforce. I've been at Salesforce for about 6.5 years. Prior to that, I was in consulting. Prior to that, I was a customer. So I like to say I've sat on all sides of the table. As an enterprise architect, I help our customers understand where Salesforce and all the things we have in the Salesforce family fit inside their particular tech stack. So both starting with business architecture as well as technical architecture.
All right, so here is our agenda for today. We are going to start by talking about where you are in your multi-cloud implementation journey. We'll talk about year one, that is the sort of the greenfield sprint. Year two, your multi-cloud expansion. Year three, your legacy renovation potentially, right? As things have continued to grow. We'll talk about an architecture health check, and then we'll have time for a Q&A. All right, so let's get started with year one. Let's get started with you are here. So just out of curiosity, where are you all on your journeys? Is anybody on year 1 to 2 of their journeys right now, just implementing new Salesforce? I'm going to guess maybe not many. What about years 3 to 5, kind of in the middle of the journey? Anyone? No? Maybe a couple? Okay. What about year 10 or more, 8, 10, longer? Okay, good to know. So, as you all may have seen, right, Salesforce, of course, is sort of leading the way in an agentic enterprise. We have 23,000 customers who are on this journey together with us. Agentforce is moving very, very quickly. You've already heard about it, I'm sure. And we want to talk about how humans and agents are working together as you're on this journey.
Yes, and I always like to point out that the agent is advising the human at the helm, human in the loop. A very important aspect when we think about adding in agents and agentic into the enterprise.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this Salesforce architecture layer cake. I mean, who doesn't love cake? I don't know if you all have seen this slide before, but let's talk about how all of these pieces and parts come together to create your agentic architecture. And I just want to remind everyone that we are talking about a multi-cloud journey. We're talking about the core platform, right? So of course, at the center of all of this is your core platform, but we're going to start at the bottom with your system of context. It's your first layer. So we're talking about all of your data, right? And of course, we talk about Data 360, but you can connect any of your data points to Data 360. Maybe a data lake, data warehouse. That's where you're unifying all of your data together. It could be structured or unstructured. Your next level is your system of work, and that is where the core platform lives. It's where all of your clouds live as you start to expand. Then you have your system of agency. This is where your agents live, where they do their work, sometimes autonomously, sometimes with a human in the loop. And then your next level is your system of engagement. Of course, we've talked a lot about Slack here this week, but you can also connect any of your systems of engagement, any of your chat interfaces, to help your end users and your customers sort of interact with you all using this full agentic enterprise. So I want to make sure you all are kind of thinking of this, where you are on your journey, and how this all ties together as we're walking through it today. So we can talk about a multi-cloud Salesforce journey. Each step of this journey, right? Looks like most of you are already well on this journey. We're going to talk about some scenarios as we go through, and to us, these are real world scenarios. Allison and I have been consultants, we were customers, so we've been on that side of the fence, and we've seen how this sort of plays out over the course of 1, 3, 5, and 10 years. So let's get started into year one.
So year one is the exciting time. You're starting with a brand new, fresh org, a lot of eagerness in your eyes. Everything is kind of at your feet. So let's go to the next slide. And let's talk about some things that can come up in year one as a scenario. So let's say you're 4 months into this journey, and you're of your initial Sales Cloud journey. So nice straightforward implementation. Suddenly, the business says, hey, I got an idea. I got an idea saying, hey, for customer onboarding, we're going to need 45 unique data points. And I want you to do it before go live. Not change out your go live. I want you to hit it before go live. So how do you capture this before you hit the deadline? So before we put up the different choices you might have to make, keep in mind there's a lot of pressure on you. This is a brand new journey. You've spent a lot of money as an organization. So how do you react? We have two different possibilities. First one, you're going to be agile. You're going to jump on it, and you're going to say, you know what? I can use AI and just put in those 45 fields, wham, bam, and then I'm just going to put them on the account object, and very fast, you meet your deadline, but the reporting is a little less than ideal. What about path B, where you say, hey, wait a second, let's think about this a little bit more, create a custom object, which is the onboarding journey, looking up to the account, but the complication there is a little bit more complex. It requires building some automation, a new UI layout, and keeping all those statuses in sync, and you're going to have to push back your go live. Two different things. One is agility and one is stability. There's no right or wrong answer here. Have you all seen these types of choices thrown in front of you?
Right.
Maybe not this exact scenario, but this is the kinds of things we want to bring up. In year one, you have that pressure. So obviously, if you go for the agility thing, you've likely created some tech debt. But you hit your deadline, that may be the more important thing, depending on your organization. However, with stability, you're going to get it up, you're going to have a better user experience in the end, but you're going to miss your deadline. So again, there's no right or wrong. I've seen both things happen, but going for the agility, you have tech debt and you need to understand you've created that tech debt, meaning things that you're going to want to unwind later so that you can correct the quick things that you did. So let's talk about a little bit of the points that we take away from this scenario when we're thinking about best practices. So first, as you're starting out, especially when you have a clean green field, think about the long term. Even though, hey, we're moving fast, we don't have anything in our way, think about the long term. Make sure it's scalable and you're maintaining that performance, even from day one, which you may not have issues from day one. Next, establish governance. I can't tell you how many organizations, when they have a brand new one, they're like, we're too small, it's too simple, we don't need governance. Establish it anyway. If it takes 5 minutes, if it's a steering committee, an architectural review board, if it's just pulling together the right executives to be transparent about the decisions you're making so they're in it with you and you're not by yourself in this, do that on the front end.
So clicks before code when possible, right? Of course, use declarative tools, use what's out of the box when you can, as much as possible. Think of, some flows are, they're bulkified on the standard objects, right? So, Salesforce is optimized to work with standard objects behind the scenes. So, you want to stick with that where you can. Try not to write code right up front, but we know the reality, right? We're architects, we've been there. Of course, you have to write code sometimes, we get it, but try to use out-of-the-box features when possible. And then the last one, design with AI in mind. Go back to that, enterprise architecture, that agentic architecture diagram sort of in your mind. Are you building this from the ground up to enable yourself to create an agentic enterprise over time, right? You may not be doing that today. You may not be ready for that. Maybe you're still discussing it, right? C-suite, or you're trying to make some decisions around it. That's fine, but as you go, don't design yourself into a corner where you can't build on top of this architecture eventually. All right, so now we'll go to years 3 to 5. So years 3 to 5 at this point, you probably have a couple of clouds, hopefully, maybe a few. Maybe you have an industry cloud. If you're in industries, I typically focus on financial services, so maybe I have financial services cloud, sales cloud, a couple of different clouds all working together. You likely have some more complex integrations that you're working on as well, right? Maybe you pulled in some structured and unstructured data. Maybe you've decided to implement a data warehouse, didn't have one in the beginning, but now you do. Maybe there's an ERP system that's downstream too, and you need a little bit of data from there. Now you need Google Analytics data. Now it's getting really complicated. So how do we pull all of that together? And what does that look like when we're making difficult decisions around how to design? So this scenario, your footprint's expanding. VP of Sales wants the account executives to be alerted immediately when a customer has a high-risk Service Cloud case volume and low Marketing Cloud engagement. That would be a churn risk, right? How do you architect a cross-cloud alert system? So first, point-to-point, right? Custom Apex batches, right? So they're going to query the data nightly. They're going to fire webhooks into a noisy, unstructured Slack channel. Yay, I'm sure the AEs will love that. Your team already knows Apex, so no new tools to learn. And maybe we've made this decision before, Allison and I won't admit to it, but I think we may have.
We're feeling pain, too.
We've been there.
Coming off the audience, we've all been there.
Or Path B, harmonization. Leverage Data 360, harmonize your cross-cloud data. Use Agentforce to proactively summarize the churn risk directly into an actionable Slack list for the AEs. This is certainly possible to build, but the question is, right, what is your team great at? What skills do they have? What tools do they have available at their disposal? Have you implemented Data 360 yet? Are you ready to unify that data? Have you done the work to unpack what your data model is going to look like and what insights you need? Either one's going to take work. So, we say neither one of these are right or wrong. They're just considerations that we have all had to make along the way. So, what do we think about for years 3 to 5? Number 1, harmonize your data where you can, right? Unify customer profiles across clouds. Don't just rely on point-to-point integrations if possible. Use tools, of course, like Zero Copy to pull in your data quickly and easily. Right? You're not replicating data, it's not ETL. You're just pulling in the data in real time and then unifying it on demand as you need to. Simplify your middleware where you can. Transition to API-led connectivity to manage your complex data flows. Protect your org from the API limits, right? We know Salesforce has governor limits. Find a better way to manage those governor limits and think about your APIs. Because now you've grown, right? You've grown a lot over the last few years, and you really have to get ahead of this before you get to year 10, where it becomes a big spaghetti mess. Allison.
Absolutely. Enhance the workflow. Think about the user experience. Make sure that you're surfacing those insights, activating the information, especially with all the different information sources. Ideally, your team is not switching screens to figure things out. So tools like Slack will help reduce that switching, and people appreciate that. It proves the adoption. They know what screen to go to make their decisions. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, make sure to add in observability. A little bit along the lines of governance. Make sure that you have proactive alerts and centralize that logging so that you can observe what's going on, stay on top of it, keeping your integration healthy across that expanding middle years landscape.
Right, and we like to say, you can vibe code, but do you want to vibe operate? Do you want to vibe operate everything, right? So, put a human in the loop somewhere, make sure that you're adding observability where it's necessary, and that you know what's happening in your tech stack along the way. All right, let's talk about year 10, Allison's favorite.
It is my favorite. You've heard me talk at the very beginning about avoiding tech debt. Very often, we inherit these orgs. We're not necessarily around for the full journey. We come into an org, 8 to 10 years, that's a mature org. So probably mistakes have been made in the past. Mm-hmm. So let's take a look at a scenario and put ourselves in the shoes of 10 years. I think this was where most of the folks were. So again, you inherited this org. You've got a monolithic 8,000 line legacy Apex trigger, managing case routing. Mm-hmm. And the CIO just announced at an all-hands call that the company is going all in on Agentforce, to auto-triage cases by Q3. So let's just say we're in Q1. That's still not a whole lot of time to clean this up. So you're putting AI on top of this spaghetti. Mm-hmm. You've got some choices to make. So first one, and I think you all know the pattern that we're seeing now. First one is the Band-Aid. All right, let's just get this done. Let's make that CIO happy. Bolt on Agentforce. onto the front end and just add one more bypass to the variable and legacy Apex so that the AI doesn't trigger old validation errors. You hit the CIO's deadline and you show immediate ROI for now.
Right.
Second idea, the teardown. Refuse the immediate Agentforce rollout. Mandate a feature freeze. This will allow you to focus for a quarter to untangle and refactor the case trigger into a modern modular patterns before introducing any AI agents. We all know there's political capital that's lost on the second choice, but you may hit that deadline, but the fallout that comes afterward may not be worth the squeeze, as they used to say. So weighing these things out, thinking about when you get into year 10, I have not seen an org that is perfectly maintained at 8 to 10 years. It's just a fact. So as we have Agentforce coming in, thinking very clearly about what do I need to untangle. So some best practices. Audit and deprecate, get rid of the trash. Actively identify and remove unused fields. This is a pretty simple thing, but it's very, very powerful. Simplifies your UI, simplifies everything that's going on in the org. Objects as well, any legacy automation. Hey, we needed this when we did business this way, but we don't use it anymore. Let's just get rid of that. And reduce our technical debt. Untangle that big monolithic code. Almost every organization at this point has, hey, we hired a consultant who came in, built this thing, we don't really know the inputs and the outputs. Start breaking it down, break it out, have good patterns, and create safe testing and deploy safely.
Absolutely. Implement feature freezes. This is a tough one, like Allison said. I don't know how many of you have been able to do that in your careers. I've done it a couple of times. It's a difficult conversation to have, but sometimes you just need to pause. And it's one of those things where you have to explain, right, to executives, to senior leaders. We're trying to, this runway needs to be repaved, right? We need some new asphalt here. So we're gonna lay a new groundwork, and then we'll start fresh. We'll start from there. It's very difficult to do, but sometimes it's worth it. And if you can't do a full feature freeze, maybe feature freezes in specific areas. Hopefully you're attempting to solve a problem with AI, a very specific problem. You're not trying to agentify your entire stack at this moment. You're starting with something, hopefully with an outcome that you can achieve. So if you know what that outcome is, start with that particular area of the tech stack. We're going to stop feature development on this one area, and then we'll move forward while everybody's still developing in other areas, right? Because at this point, you're at year 10, your tech stack's pretty complicated. You're developing multiple features for many, many different teams and business processes. Last one, quantify your technical debt. This one is so important, and it's so difficult to do. But hopefully you all have product owners, product managers, and or project managers that you can work with to incorporate technical debt and remediation as a part of your delivery lifecycle, right? So these are important. I would say that just about any developer or engineer is going to scream about technical debt all day and say that we need to work on this. So find some way to incorporate it and to show the ROI. Why are we fixing this at all? Why are we not working on new features? Well, we are working on new features. We're preparing to deliver those new features by resolving some of these problems that exist today. And this is really important at year 10 because there's probably a lot of work we've talked about at years 1, 3, and 5. We've already built all of these features out, and maybe you made some decisions in the past that you need to sort of undo before you can move forward.
Yeah, they're difficult conversations to have. When we bring up tech debt, a lot of times folks who are not technical don't understand what we're talking about, and making that ROI conversation is one that needs to be done pretty carefully.
Indeed. All right, so let's talk about architecture health check and what that looks like. So we'll just come back here really quickly, just a reminder of what this agentic enterprise looks like, what we're sort of working towards here. And then we'll go to our well-architected guide. Hopefully all of you have seen the well-architected guide at some point. Maybe you use it day to day. It is a really, really useful framework to help guide you along as you're making decisions. So we'll talk a bit about trusted, easy, and adaptable, and how you can sort of wrap this around the decisions that you're making, and how you can use this to help you check the health of your org. So the first one, we'll talk about trusted. Simplify your sharing models, right? Reduce your complex visibility checks to immediately improve your system performance. You all know sharing model is very complex, right? There's many layers to it. Right? You've got your org-wide sharing models, your permission sets, permission set groups. There's Apex managed sharing. There's so many ways to share. take another look at your sharing models and your sharing tables and figure out where you are today. We can use health checks, of course, to help you with that. Do you have modify all over the place? Maybe you need to reduce that a little bit. What do your connected apps look like and how are they sharing? So there's lots of ways here to sort of reduce that complexity up front, make sure that your system is trusted. Of course, we have the trust layer at the bottom of all this, right? When at the bottom layer, when we're talking about agents and agents are reaching out to LLMs, right? We have our zero retention policy, right, with our LLM providers, which is fantastic. So we know we can protect the data, but we also have to be cautious about making sure we're protecting the entry points to our orgs too. So look at your sharing and look at your entry points from an API perspective. Next, optimize transactions. Shift your heavy operations to asynchronous processes to prevent user bottlenecks. Make sure you're looking at your code as asynchronous as possible. Of course, we have new releases, right, 3 times a year. There's lots of ways to improve your end-to-end. I mean, can you shift some of this code off? Maybe some of it can be actually moved to flows, maybe not. Maybe it needs to stay in Apex. Maybe you need to move some of it off the platform. Maybe there's new connectors that we've released, and now you can simplify that as well. So lots of options here, but I would say at least once a year, just take a quick look and see if there's anything new that was released to reduce some of the complexity, especially if you're embedding complex operations within your code. Sometimes there's some ways to offload that and reduce your compute.
So the easy layer, think about bulkifying everything. Think about the fact that, especially as you're at the beginning, it's very easy to say, oh, it's only a few records, but as you grow, it may fail if you haven't done this homework. So think about treating all those collection-based data operations and treat SOCL as a strict data operation. So looking into your code, making sure that the best practices have been applied. When we talk about that monolithic code, that's usually deep in those, something has not been done right, and that's where things start to misfire. The more modular things are, the easier it is to find. Design for intent. So think about, and as an enterprise architect, we talk about business architecture and capabilities and jobs to be done. So it's very important to be thinking from a user perspective of what do they actually need to do, rather than just the internal reporting structures, meaning who needs to see what to do their job, as opposed to, well, it's the CEO, they're going to modify all. No. Think very intentionally about what they need to do their job and set it up accordingly.
Great. And last, adaptable. So decouple environments. So transition from org-based development to strict source-driven deployment life cycles. At this point, especially if you're going towards year 10, hopefully you're using something like SFDX. You're thinking about version control, right? You're not just deploying the entire org. You're deploying in modular pieces and parts. And if you're not capable of doing that yet, you're thinking of ways to restructure your code, restructure your design, so that it is more modular. So you are able to just deploy pieces and parts of different business processes or just different areas of the apps that you've built so far. And then build modularly, right? It's really important. Make sure that you're using stateless patterns to enable faster, safer refactoring as the org grows. Again, like I said before, make sure you're deploying in blocks, pieces, and parts. That way it's easy for you to make updates to specific parts of the stack, specific clouds, and then refactor along the way without affecting other business processes. At this point, if you're at year 10, you probably have lots of business users, different teams, could be external users as well, all in the same place. You don't want to impact them because you're the sales team, because you're updating the service team's processes. So figuring out how to build modularly and deploy modularly with your application lifecycle management is really important at this point. So this is a well-architected journey that we have covered at this point. Talking through years 1, 3 to 5, and year 10. It's a pretty broad journey. It's a long one. We've been there. We've been on it with you. So we really appreciate the time. We just wanted to say thank you so much for being here today.